Good morning to everybody. Thank you so much for joining and welcome to our webinar, Everything You Need to Know About the MIPS Payment Adjustment. My name is Michelle Brunson, and presenting with me today is my colleague and friend, Sandy Swallow. As the release of your organization's Quality Payment Program Final Report draws near in these next coming weeks, we thought it'd be helpful to explain how the payment adjustments will be applied to your Medicare Part B claims starting January 1st of 2019. So before we get started, let's go over a few housekeeping details. All of your lines have been muted to avoid unnecessary background noise, but if you could also please use the *6 to mute your own line as well, just to ensure that we don't have any other noises. And we do plan on allowing ample time at the end of the webinar here today to open up the lines for your questions. Now, you may download the slides for today's presentation if you haven't already done so on our intelligentqpp.com website. And if you just go under resources, you'll see it's the first link there. So it's intelligentqpp.com under the resources. The call is being recorded, and it will be posted to our website in the next few days, also under the resources section of intelligentqpp.com. Lastly, following our discussion today, you will receive a survey. We ask that you please take 5 minutes to complete it. We really value that information and the feedback that you share with us. It also helps us plan and prepare for future webinars, as well as areas where maybe more technical assistance is needed. So I'm going to do a quick review of the agenda here. As always, our goal is that you leave with more Quality Payment Program knowledge than when you joined the webinar. We will share Quality Payment Program updates to keep you informed of news, highlights, and new resources since our last time together. And then we'll dive into our focus topic, exploring the payment adjustment rules, and how they'll follow MIPS clinicians working in your organization. This can be complicated, so we have outlined some general payment adjustment rules for individual and group level reporting for you to use as a reference. And we will put those rules to use with some hypothetical payment adjustment scenarios to test your knowledge. Lastly, we'll allow time for your questions or sharing of your experience. So first of all, we want to make sure that all of you are aware that CMS is now offering the ability for you to determine the eligibility of the MPIs in your TIN with the MPI lookup tool on the QPP.cms.gov website. You log into the tool with your EIDM credentials, find the affiliated TIN, and then review the details screen to see each MPI in the TIN and their eligibility. Now, how nice is that instead of having to look up each MPI? So thank you to CMS for that. And if you do not have an EIDM account, or if you're unsure if you do have an EIDM account, you can call the QPP Help Desk at the phone number listed here, and they will help you set one up or recover your information. We've also provided a link to the EIDM User's Guide as well for your reference. So next newsflash is CMS is in the process of calculating the MIPS Final Score and payment adjustment based on your last submission or submission update. Your final score and feedback report with the payment adjustment will be available around July 1st through the Quality Payment Program website. You can sign in to view your preliminary feedback report between now through that June 30th or sometime around that date when the final report will be available. And it may not be your final score. It may change based on some following situations that we've listed here. You may have special scoring considerations or all-cause readmission measure for the quality category, claims measures that included a 60-day run-out period, caps for MIPS survey results, or perhaps an advancing care information hardship application status, as well as creation of performance period benchmarks for quality measures that didn't have a historical benchmark. So all of these are different reasons why your preliminary feedback report may not give you the same as your final score when that is released. Most of you are aware that macro legislation requires annual updates to the QPP rule. through what we call the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, or NPRM. And that NPRM has a 60-day comment period. So we anticipate that CMS will release the NPRM within the next few weeks. We're hoping so. And when that's released, there are some areas that we would like to watch here at Telegen. We're eager to see how they are addressed in the proposed rule. And those, some of those include if the weight of the cost performance category will increase above 10%, if there are changes to the low volume threshold, if there are any additional eligible clinician role types added, such as the LSW or a physical therapist or dietitian, for example, and if the 2015 certified EHR technology requirements become mandatory for those of you using your EHR. So, again, these are just a few of those areas of interest that we're eager to see, but we will be watching for that. And Sandy and I should be giving a webinar on the key highlights for you, so you can look at if there are comments that you would like to submit before the end of that 60-day comment period. So look for that. We just don't know what date that might be yet, but we will get that information out to all of you who are on our listserv. So now I'm going to turn it over to Sandy to begin explaining some MIPS general payment adjustment rules for the 2017 performance period.
Well, thanks, Michelle. And like she said, we'll move on to our focus topic today, MIPS general payment adjustment rules. Now, this conversation that we're having today, this applies to the 2017 reporting submission period. Though we don't anticipate a lot of changes in the payment adjustment rules in the 2019 year either, but as Michelle says, we'll see hopefully in the next couple of weeks that notice of proposed rulemaking will be out, and we'll be able to know a little bit more about that too. But anyway, CMS designed the payment adjustment rules to be simple also. So the payment adjustment is applied at the 10 MPI level, and it begins 2 years after the stated performance year, which is the following year of the submission period for the performance year. Not as simple as it sounds, right? But so let's look at this as, so your performance year was 2017, so your payment adjustment year is going to be 2019. So 2 years out. But as you know, there are many unique situations, and there's a lot of dynamics out there that will complicate this for you, such as, a variety of clinicians, especially specialists. They render services for more than one organizational kin. And you guys know better than we do about how mobile our clinicians are in today's culture. They leave one organization and they join another and then another. All of these dynamics cause the payment adjustment and how it follows the MPI to be a little bit more complex. Now, CMS is working on a resource for us that is going to be a resource payment adjustment fact sheet. Hopefully that will be out within the next couple of months. We don't have a date yet for the release of that, so that's why we thought it would be helpful to talk through some of these today for you prior to getting your feedback report and your payment adjustment announcement here in July. Now, this next slides are going to be just quick refreshers because I want to make sure that everybody has the same understanding of how the MIPS Final Score is calculated and how it lays the groundwork to where we want to go today with understanding everything you need to know about the payment adjustment. Most of you are familiar with this equation, but every week Michelle and I get a phone call from somebody new that just got thrown into this project in some organization, and they're like, tell me all about MIPS. Let's, where do I start? This was just put in my lap. So for those folks, this equation needs to become familiar to you. CMS will calculate each weighted performance category score by adding the total performance points earned for that category. They'll divide it by the possible achievable points for that category, and then they'll multiply it by the weight of that performance category. Next, they add, for 2017, the three performance category scores together. They multiply by 100 to arrive at the MIPS final score for the individual or group, depending on your reporting level. So I'm going to give you an example of that because I'm a visual person, and so let's take an improvement activity. So we'll take that category. Say that you earn 20 points for the improvement activity category, and there's a total possible points of 40 for the improvement category. So they'll divide that 20 into 40, and you get 50% or half. And then the weight of the improvement category is 15%. So you multiply that half, or 50% times the 15, and you get 7.5 points for the improvement category. So again, that'll be done with the PI category, the quality category score. They'll add those together, multiply that by 100 to arrive at the MIPS Final Score for the 2017 reporting period. The MIPS Final Score is then compared with the performance threshold to determine potential payment adjustment. Again, I won't spend time on this slide, but as you've all seen it many times, and you understand that the MIPS Final Score correlates with the table for the expected PA beginning, or the expected payment adjustment beginning January 1st, 2019. And if you think about that, that's less than 6 months from now. Now, this graph depicts the annual potential payment adjustment increase through 2022, which is the 2020 reporting period. The next payment adjustment will apply beginning January 1st of the payment year, and the payment adjustment ends December 31st of that payment year. So you'll get the eligible clinician will get a new one each year. Again, the payment adjustment is applied at the 10 MPI level. Now, the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2018, this included a provision that affects how MIPS payment adjustments will be applied beginning with the 2019 payment year. Adjustments will be applied to covered professional services furnished by MIPS-eligible clinicians to services paid under the Medicare fee-for-service schedule. Now, those provided and furnished by a MIPS-eligible clinicians and billed under their 10 MPI combination. Now, this includes some Part B drugs, those with the J and the Q code. It also includes the critical access hospital methods 1 and 2, those that are billed on a UB form that are considered to be Medicare Part B professional services. But the payment adjustment does not apply to services rendered under the all-inclusive rate payment methodology for rural health clinics. It doesn't apply to the critical access hospital facility payments, and it doesn't apply to FQHC payments. The Bipartisan Act of 2018 included a provision period that MIPS payment adjustments will not be applied to payments for Part B items and services that are not covered professional services. And that would be with respect to like the Medicare Part B drug medications that are under the HCPCS code with an E code. So those medications and drugs the payment adjustment will not apply to. I'm going to turn it over to Michelle. She's going to talk to you a little bit about, we divided this up into two sections. One about individual level reporting, those rules for the individual reporters, and then one with group reporting. And Michelle will visit with you about the individual level reporting.
Thank you, Sandy. So clinicians have the option to report at the individual or group level. As a support contractor for the small, underserved, and rural clinicians, or SURS clinicians, most of my clients chose individual reporting. And that means that the MIPS-eligible clinician is assessed and scored at the 10 individual NPI level across all MIPS performance categories. So that is also then how the payment adjustment is applied. Starting with the individual reporting rules, the most common scenario is where there's no change in the 10 when a clinician who bills to the 10 in the payment year is the same 10 as what they billed between January 1st and August 30th of the performance period. So the clinician then will be assessed the payment adjustment under that same 10 NPI combination according to the final score earned from the data submitted or collected under that 10. So this is just the ideal situation. It makes it very easy to know that which payment adjustment the 10 will go to. So this is a clinician that submits data for performance year 2017 under 10A, and when 2019 comes around, that clinician is still working at 10A. So the payment adjustment, whether it's positive or negative, applies to all of his or her 2019 Medicare Part B claims. So they're not all that simple, however. So individual reporting rule number 2. You can have a change in the 10 from the performance year to the payment year. We have a clinician or MPI who bills under a 10 in the payment year that did not bill to that same 10 back in the performance period of January 1st to August 30th. Maybe he or she left the practice, or they just started working out of a new clinic and they continue at the previous clinic. So the clinician will be assessed the payment adjustment under that 10 NPI combination based on the most advantageous final score that was attributed to that specific NPI under any 10 NPI combination for the performance period. Okay, moving on to the individual reporting rule number 3. We have a change in the 10 after September 1st of the performance year. So our clinician with their MPI, they started billing under a new 10 after September 1st of the performance period. Now that new NPI 10 combination will not be captured in CMS system as associated with or included in MIPS under the new 10. No data needs to be submitted by or on behalf of this MIPS EC under the new 10, and he or she will not receive a final score or payment adjustment for that new 10. But if they were individually included in MIPS under another practice, and they received a final score and payment adjustment under that 10, the payment adjustment then is applied to the clinician at that new practice in the payment year. Now continuing forward then, if data is submitted and was individually included in MIPS under multiple practices, and they receive their final scores under these multiple practices and payment adjustments under these 10s, the most advantageous of these payment adjustments will be applied to the clinician at the new practice in that payment year. If no data was submitted under any 10, the clinician will receive a neutral payment adjustment at the new practice in the payment year. So, as you can see, there are just different situations that can occur, and it can become confusing. So now, I'm going to turn it over to Sandy to discuss group level reporting.
Okay, so the next few slides will be specific to clinicians that participate in the group level reporting. You'll see that actually the rules are very parallel to those as an individual level reporter. All right, so let's talk about how our payments are applied at group level. Each MIPS eligible clinician participating at group level will receive a payment adjustment based on the group's performance. Clinicians that submit both as a group and individually for a particular 10, those CMS will calculate both submission methods and use the score that is highest for that category. And then if and only if the individual does individual submissions for the other two performance categories, then CMS will calculate the 3 category scores and at the individual level for a final score. And then the highest of either the group or the individual score is used for that 10 MPI combination. There are some groups that decided they've got individuals who were just really high achievers compared to the rest of the group, and they decided, well, we're going to go ahead and report individually for them too. And that's okay, but you have to do it for all 3 categories in order for that score, that final score, to be higher than your group score in order to have that individual looked at as an individual for their payment adjustment. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, any individual MPI who is excluded from the MIPS MIPS due to either maybe their eligibility type or they're newly enrolled in Medicare or they're a QP or they're a partial QP, they will not receive a payment adjustment, even if they're in your group, okay? So they won't receive their payment adjustment. However, when you're doing group participation at group level, those eligible clinicians who are below the low volume threshold as individuals will receive a payment adjustment when reporting as a group, provided that none of those other exclusions that I just listed apply to them. And this is really significant to those groups that have clinicians that some are exempt due to low volume and some are eligible as both individuals and group. So when you're strategizing about reporting level, if you expect to do well, and feel like your MIPS performance scores and the final score is going to be good, you might want to do group level reporting, if you're looking for next year, because all of the eligible clinicians in that group, even the low volume threshold eligible clinicians, will get that positive payment adjustment. If you're just doing individual reporting, those individuals will not get the payment adjustment, even if you submit data for them as an individual. So again, that's part of strategizing what's best for your particular organization. Okay, let's look at some group reporting. Let's look at rule number 4. This is, again, no change in the 10. This is what we hope, and this is the most simple. But this is the clinician who bills to the same 10 in the payment year as they did between 1/1 and 8/30 of the performance period. The group performance is assessed and scored at the 10 level across all 3 categories, or 4 starting next year. Each MIPS eligible clinician participating in the group will receive a payment adjustment based on the group's performance. Group reporting rule number 5, clinicians, say the clinician joins a group after August 31st, 2017 for that performance period, and they start billing to the new PIN after September 1st of the performance period. They will not be captured in the CMS system as associated with or included in the MIPS under this PIN, under the new PIN. Very similar to the rule that Michelle talked to you about with the individual. The data of this clinician could potentially be included as part of the group submission. However, the MPI will not receive a final score or payment adjustment based on the group level submission. Now, say if the clinician was included in MIPS under another practice group level reporting, a 10 that they billed from prior to September 1st, and they receive a final score and payment adjustment under that 10, that payment adjustment will be applied to the clinician at the new practice in the payment year. And continuing for the clinician who joins the group after August 31st of the performance period, if the data was submitted and the clinician was included in this under multiple group level submissions, those would be 10s they billed to prior to September 1st, and then they received final scores and payment adjustments under those multiple 10s. CMS will take the most advantageous of those payment adjustments, and that will be applied to the clinician at the new practice that he started billing under September 1st in the payment year. Now, if no data was submitted under any PIN, the clinician will receive a neutral or 0 payment adjustment at the new practice in the payment year. Now, note that, again, this information is current for the 2017 performance period. I will tell you that CMS is investigating options for the 2018 performance period regarding this particular rule. But as of the feedback reports and the payment adjustments that you'll be looking at here in July, that's how the rule is applied. So what happens when the clinician leaves the group during the performance period? So payment adjustment rule number 6, as we're calling them, and clinician MPIs will receive a final score and payment adjustment based on the practice's performance, which may follow the clinician to any practice or 10 they join for the payment year. The clinician does not inherit the payment adjustment earned by the new practice. If the clinician worked at multiple 10s during the performance period but joined a different practice for the payment year, then CMS will use the higher final score of those multiple 10s he worked at to apply the payment adjustments to the new practice. This slide here, CMS has added a couple really nice final score hierarchy tables. They're table 30 and 31 in the year 2 final rule that illustrate the final policies for determining which final score will be used for the payment adjustment. This one is table 30, and it illustrates when more than one final score is associated with a 10 MPI pallet calculator where it moves to. And then the next slide here shows table 31, and this applies if there is not a final score associated with a 10 MPI from the performance period for that payment year. So both of the tables can be found on page 778 of the final rule year 2, and they really are a nice reference sheet for you.
Okay, so now it's time to test your knowledge. So Sandy and I, we're going to share some scenarios that you may very well experience in the next few years if you don't already in 2019. So the first scenario is the MIPS eligible clinician works at 10A and 10B from January 1st, 17 to 12/31/2019. 10A reported as a group for 2017, and their final score was 15 points. 10B required their clinicians report as individuals for 2017, and the MIPS EC's final score was 3. So will the MIPS EC's payment adjustment be the same at each of the 10s?
We'll give you a minute here to think about that. And hopefully you all answered no. He will have 2 different payment adjustments on the 2 different scores earned at the 10 MPI combination. And this follows rule number 1.
Okay, the second scenario, we have a MIPS eligible clinician who works at 10A from January 1st of 17 to 10/31 of 17. And he leaves 10A and starts to work at 10B from 11/1/17 to 12/31/19. 10A reported as a group with a final score of 15. 10B reported as a group with a final score of 70. Which final score will the MIPS EC's payment adjustment at 10B be faced?
We'll give you a minute to think about that one. And did everybody answer? 10A 15. For the 2017 performance period, clinicians who started billing to a 10 between 9/1/17 and 12/31 will not be recognized as participating in a 10 for the 2017 performance period and will be subject to the payment adjustment based on the highest final score received under the 10 MPI combination in the performance period. And that's based on billing between 1/1 and 8/31. So that's rule 5.
Okay, very good.
So say you have a MIPS eligible clinician that enrolled in Medicare in June of 2016 and was below the low volume threshold as an individual for the first 2017 determination period, but he exceeded the threshold in the second determination period. His large practice exceeded the low volume threshold in both periods, and he chose to report as a group for 2017. They received a final score of 45. Will the MIPS eligible clinician get a positive payment adjustment applied to his 2019 claim?
Okay, so we'll give you a second here to think about that. And we hope that you answered yes. When reporting at a group level, the entire group's low volume threshold is evaluated as a group, and the payment adjustment is applied as a group.
All right, so for our last scenario, the MIPS eligible clinician participates in an advanced APM for the 2017 reporting period, and they become a qualified participant, or a QP. The ACO entity submits group-level quality measures via the CMS web interface. The ACO entity receives full credit for improvement activities, and the ACO 10 submitted data for the PI category. The ACO entity earned a positive 4% payment adjustment. Will the MIPS EC get a positive payment adjustment applied to the 2019 claim? Now remember, this MIPS eligible participant is in an advanced APM and they are qualified as a QP.
That really is key right there. Sandy's giving me a little assistance. So we're hoping that you said no. As a qualified participant, or QP, in an advanced APM, the MIPS payment adjustment is not applied. Rather, the MIPS EC will receive a 5% lump sum bonus based on the Medicare Part B claim. So these are just a few scenarios that we came up with, but now is a time where we thought that you could ask us some questions that you think that may apply to your situation, either coming up for 2019 payment adjustment or moving forward. So I'm going to open up the phone lines, and please feel free to unmute your own line as well, hitting #6, and we can see what questions you may have.
The leader has unmuted your line.
I hope that everybody has the ability now to ask questions, so please feel free. Or if you'd like us to reiterate anything that we went over, again, we can do that as well.
Michelle, how do we get copies of these slides?
Okay, if you go to intelligentqpp.com, and then there's a menu there, and you look at the resources section, and then it should have the June 12th description of the webinar, and it'll say click here to access the slides. Click on that link, the here link, and then you can download those there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Either we did a really good job of explaining, or else we really confused you guys.
Hopefully it's the former.
Yeah. But we'll come and tell you, again, Intelligent is here to help. Please join any of our monthly webinars. We have the QPP Coffee Talk with subject matter experts. We focus on there's always a focused QPP topic, and then we open it for Q&A. It's the second Thursday of every month. It's from 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, June 14th, which is this Thursday. There's a registration link. Courtney will be talking about the MIPS mid-year checklist for 2018, just things that where you should be now, and how to be documenting everything for supporting documentation in the event of an audit. July 12th, we plan to talk about Let's Talk MIPS feedback reports, or if the notice of proposed rulemaking has been released and we've had an opportunity to do some reading on that, we'll be talking about that too. Otherwise, that one will move on until August. But there's a registration link for you there.
And then also, we thought there's so many wonderful upcoming CMS webinars, the first of which, actually two that are actually happening today, one right after this webinar. So I did provide the registration link in case you have time and can hop on that for MIPS Promoting Interoperability Performance Category webinar, and that is the former Advancing Care Information, or ACI. So the registration link is there, as well as then the June land webinars. We'll be focusing on using data and strategy to succeed in MIPS Year 2, advice for solo and small group practices. So there's one today, but there's a repeat of it as well on Thursday. So depending on the time, maybe you could join one of those. And then just some upcoming webinars, understanding MIPS for specialties, advice for solo and small group practices coming in July. They have the date, here and the time. Now, topics are subject to change, and registration is forthcoming for those, as well as there's a cost performance category webinar July 25th from 12 to 1. I really think that'll be highly attended as well. And then how to maximize your EHR use coming up in August. So if you want to maybe mark down these dates, I think there are going to be some great content there that will be very helpful for you. And here is a listing of all of the different CMS Help Desks. As you all know, CMS has really tried to provide a lot of free assistance in any way. So those help desks for different situations that you may encounter are listed here, as well as the blue highlighted box, the QPP Service Center, and their email address too. So in case you don't know, who to reach out to, and you could certainly reach out to Sandy or myself, and if we wouldn't be the exact contact, we would certainly help you get joined up with that person. But there's just a lot of great resources. Now we're trying to get time to see if anybody came up with any questions. Do we have anybody that thought of anything here that you might ask? Sure.
So we have an eligible clinician that's leaving this month and moving to a new practice. So I was wondering, since it's before September 1st, how that would affect reporting for him?
Okay, so they're going to be leaving here. So you can report for him, based on contracts. I don't know if you had a contract. If he was to leave, you reported that he get the data from the next place. But so you can report for him.
Do you plan to report as a group or as an individual for your team?
So we always do individual reporting in our practice.
Okay, so as an individual, it will not be, you do not need to submit for him unless you have something in the contract with him that says that you would be submitting on his behalf, because the new place that he goes to because he'll be starting before September 1st, or August 31st, most likely they're going to submit for him too, so yours won't matter.
Would we need to provide that data to them?
Well, it would depend on how they're going to do it. If they're going to do a full year, or if they're going to do 90 days, depending on each category. But CMS is hoping that you guys will play nice playground, and knowing that maybe you got somebody leaving this time, but you got somebody coming the next year, and so that you guys will submit, you will be out of courtesy, submit the data that you need to each other. And that's kind of the whole.
And then I'm assuming that his payment adjustment that he earned for performance year of 2017 will follow him to the new practice?
Yes.
Okay.
Great question.
Great, thank you.
I have a question as well.
Sure.
The data that we're going to get in July, is it going to include the amount of the positive payment adjustment and the amount of the possible bonus, or just the score?
As far as we know, we have not received any additional information recently, but as far as we know, it will provide your MIPS feedback score. And then what your final payment adjustment is if it's like a positive 4, if it's going to be 4%, if it's going to be 2% or 1%. That is our understanding. We are waiting. CMS is hoping to get out some fact sheets that will actually show us what those resource lists, your feedback reports are going to look like, the information you're going to get. I was on a call last week, and they said that they are anticipating the feedback reports to still come out in July, and that they will be doing some webinars the first part of July to explain the feedback reports and what you're supposed to be looking for and how to access them. So we're on pins and needles waiting for all that information too for you guys. But as far as we know, yes. The answer to the question is yes, but
Okay, and just to follow up to make sure, are they going to mail out something, or do providers and ECs have to go on and use their EIDM account and log on? Or is this going to be something that they're going to mail to everybody?
There'll be no mailing. It'll be your responsibility to go into the EIDM account and pull up the feedback report. So if you don't have an EIDM account established at this point for your TIN and with your eligible clinicians, I would definitely be working with the help desk to get that done now, because I'm pretty sure once those feedback reports go out, there'll be lots of folks that don't have the EIDM account really calling in. Hopefully most of you have one from data submission, but if you don't, or you don't know where what your username and password are, please work with the help desk now.
And it's a good thing to just go out to that website and try it just to make sure. That way it's just all set and ready to go. When you get that notification from CMS and or Telegen, then you can just go out there and look at it right away.
Got it. Thank you. And finally, will you say one more time where the handouts are on your webpage, because I didn't quite catch where they are?
Sure. It's TelegenQPP.com, and then under resources, do you see the resources drop down there?
Yeah, I see what it was. I didn't put QPP.com. So
okay,
yeah, I put Telegen. Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. And that's the same place where the recording will be too. I'm sorry. That'll be where we'll put the recording as well for anybody that may want to listen to it again, or know somebody in your office that might like to hear it. We'll have that there in the next few days. I'm sorry, I interrupted somebody. Yes. Did we have another question? I'm sorry. I had to add in a comment. I think I interrupted somebody.
I have a question about the preliminary reports.
Yes.
When we logged in and did our reporting, we had quite a large number of associated eligible clinicians.
Okay.
But when we look at the preliminary report, we're not seeing all the eligible clinicians that are associated with the group after group reporting. Would that be a help desk ticket, or would we expect on the final report to see the remainder of those clinicians?
But I would definitely do a help desk now to just see if they can go in and look at that with you. Because if you did group reporting and when you first logged in, you saw all your eligible clinicians before you submitted your data, is that how I understood the question?
Yes.
But now that you've submitted the data and doing group level, you would only see one final score, a preliminary final score. However, you should still be able to identify all your eligible clinicians in that detail section.
Okay. We did one phone call, and they said from their side they saw more eligible clinicians than we were able to see on the preliminary report. So we will double check it, and we'll put in a formal help ticket then rather than just a call. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathleen. Sure, yes. Oh, I thought I heard someone say I have a question.
I do have a question about clarifying the slide 17 when you talked about submitting both as a group and individually.
Okay.
And so the caveat that use a score that is highest if and only if, that's if there's three categories. Suppose we are an excluded hospital-based group that only has two categories. Well, that still, they assign our IA score to the quality. So will it still...
Okay, so then it would be just the two categories if you're IA.
Correct.
Yeah.
You don't see that.
See, there's another scenario there. Lots of different ones, that's for sure.
So I didn't know whether there would be any.
Really pointed this one out is because a lot of folks started doing individually submitting claims, and then decided, well, we're going to go ahead and do group submission, which you can use for group submission. So they'll calculate the individual claims data for quality, but that final score for that category, even if that's higher than what your group got for quality, if you didn't submit for the other two categories, then you're not, when they look at the highest score, they're looking at the highest total MIPS final score as an individual, so they're adding all 2 or 3 of those categories together to get the highest score. And if you don't submit on the other ones, then you're not likely going to get a higher score than what you got as a group for the 3 categories.
Right.
So,
yeah, ours was the claims is on an individual basis is what we use, but then we were able to submit it as a group for the IA so that we can include those ones that are low threshold.
Okay.
So I guess we'll just wait and see.
And that brings us to another point, too. That's why we're here. When you do get your final report, please reach out to us with any questions at all, or if you'd just like to go through to make sure you understand it correctly. That's what we're here for. And again, if you're from another state, again, welcome. And we could certainly, direct you to the right resource after we help you, just so that you have a contact moving forward.
And there will be a targeted review period that you'll be able to submit, questions and have it reviewed. If you want a reconsideration of your MIPS score, and I think it's going to be 60 days. So.
Yeah, that's another good reason why it'll be very important. Once you receive that notification, they're available to go out and check right away. So make sure you can log on to your EIDM account now. And that way you can just go out there and make sure, and you still have time to talk with us to decipher what's happening, and if there is something that maybe you do need to submit a targeted review, we can walk through that process for this 60 days.
One last call for any questions, and then we'll give you some time back to your day.
Is that for sure going to be released July 1st, or will they back that up for any reason?
Well, they had been saying July 1st, and that's the date that they expected, but as other things happen, we just don't like to, I don't like to put a specific date on anything, just for that reason that things do occur that are unforeseen. But they were pretty adamant, July 1st.
The call I was on last week, as it indicated, they're saying early July. They didn't use the date 1st anymore, but they are also saying that they will be having these webinars to go over what to expect with the reports and how to download them early July. So I don't know if that means they'll put the feedback reports out there first, and then and they couldn't answer that question either. With this being a new program, there is just a lot of going on, and a lot of coming from a lot of All right. Well, thank you guys so much for your participation. We really appreciate the support that you give us here at Sullivan, and the state. That's very helpful for us. CMS requires us to do that. They want to make sure that the funding they provide for the SURS and the QIOs and all of their resources are worth it. So we just really appreciate all of you guys.
Have a great rest of your day, and like I said, if you do find that you have time to hop on that CMS Promoting Interoperability category webinar, that link is on the slides as well. So, and if you have any questions, please reach out to Sandy or myself. Have a great day. Thank you.